Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Seppi, and we have a doozy today. We're talking about Ahsoka Episode 5. This is going to be a spoiler review. I'm just going to say that straight up. I don't feel like tiptoeing around the point of this. I want to talk about this episode. Pretty excited about it. Honestly, if you couldn't tell, I really enjoyed this episode, this member-berry-filled episode, but I think done pretty tastefully. I think they did a good job of, adding in some stuff that makes us go, oh, I remember him. But at the same time, like it's used properly and in a pretty mature storytelling type of way. Like, just to kind of get into the meat of it, this episode, if you haven't caught up so far, go watch all 5 episodes and then come back and watch this video. But this episode is Ahsoka in the world between worlds, or maybe the world between worlds in her head. It's kind of unclear, and I think that's intentional, but it's her confronting her old master, who is Anakin Skywalker. And in this story, they could have done so many things, and there's some things that I hope they still come back to, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but they kind of just picked one focus, and they took you on a little journey. That journey took you through the Clone Wars movie, a major episode early on in the Clone Wars animated series where Ahsoka is kind of put in command of these clone troopers, and we actually get a cool little cameo of Rex. It was either that or the next one, but she's put in command of these clone troopers, and something goes wrong, and she loses a few of them, and she blames herself, and we kind of revisit that story. And then we do the Siege of Mandalore, and Anakin mentions that he doesn't remember this battle. And she's like, yeah, you wouldn't. We parted ways at this point. And all throughout this little sequence, Ahsoka's kind of taking little stabs at Anakin. But also you can tell that they're not just like, yeah, because I know what you became, but also I kind of blame myself partially for it. And it's a really, nice kind of trip through memory lane, I suppose, even though it's not really nice memories. But it's a good way to kind of show Ahsoka and how she feels about her current situation. And it does a pretty good job of explaining, like, one of my major qualms with this show, which has been Ahsoka doesn't feel like herself. She feels super stoic. She's not really moving much. She's not really talking much. She fights a lot and she gets angry looking. But this episode does a good job of explaining, like, yeah, there's a pretty good reason for it. It's her life. Her life has kind of culminated to this point where she feels like all she is a warrior, and now there's not a war. But now there might be a war with Thrawn. And, another thing that they kind of touch on in this little journey is Ahsoka going to become what Anakin was to her by training Sabine that way? Like, Ahsoka's pretty confident she's not going to turn into Darth Vader or something similar, but she worries about that. And she's kind of worried, like, am I just training Sabine to be a warrior when Sabine doesn't want to be a warrior? She just wants to save her friend. And also kind of a little subtle lesson in there that, like, sometimes to save your friends, you got to be a little bit of a warrior. You got to fight. And that's kind of what Anakin's lesson is. So to kind of go backwards a little bit, to kind of backtrack, this episode starts with, Hera and Jason, who has a pretty important role in this, looking for Ahsoka. And then it kind of cuts back and forth between them looking for Ahsoka and what's going on in either Ahsoka's head or the actual world between worlds with possibly actually Anakin's Force Ghost. Again, still unclear, but it seems like it's Anakin's Force Ghost. I just think that they leave it intentionally vague. But basically, Anakin says, hey, I'm here to finish your training. And Ahsoka's like, oh, is that so? Like, kind of sarcastically, like, awfully nice of you, Darth Vader, to come back and finish my training. Again, a little bit out of guilt and a little bit, like, actually upset with him. And she thinks there's nothing left he can train her, but he flips the switch on her and cuts the world between worlds floor out from underneath her, quite literally, and she falls. And when she falls, she wakes up in this, like, the camera kind of pans down and it pans to her, and you see Ahsoka standing up in this kind of like fog of war haze, and you see these AT-TEs in the background and explosions going off and laser blasts from the separatists and the droids. And you notice that it's a young Ahsoka, and the actress that they cast to play young Ahsoka did a pretty fine job. I think looked like Ahsoka, sounded like Ahsoka. didn't necessarily behave completely like Ahsoka, because it wasn't just flashbacks of these scenes that we've seen in previous works, but it's more of like her take on it as an adult, like thinking, this is the Clone Wars, like, oh yeah, I was a teenager and you trained me to be a warrior, and like kind of like how she thinks as an adult. And Anakin's taken her through this lesson. All he says the lesson is fight and survive, or don't fight and die. And there's definitely more to the lesson, which I'll touch on a little bit too. But basically, they kind of take Ahsoka through these life experiences that she's had, none of them really particularly good, but stuff that we've seen on screen that is good for us. And Anakin just keeps saying, like, you're missing the point, like, fight or die. And, you know, Ahsoka is eventually like, what if I don't want to fight? Like, what the heck? I just want to not do that. And I don't want to train my future Padawan to be like this. And Anakin's like, do you even want a future Padawan? And basically the conversation just kind of keeps boiling to where Ahsoka's not really getting the point. And to be completely honest, the first watch through as an audience member watching, I also didn't get the point of Anakin's lessons or why he was saying certain things. But upon the second viewing, I kind of have a decent understanding of what he's talking about. But again, all Force mysterious, kind of up in the air for interpretation, which I like. I like that restraint. I like that kind of mature storytelling. Eventually, Anakin just kind of gives in and he's like, okay, Ahsoka, and he turns into Darth Vader. And you also, before he does this, you get some really beautiful shots of Anakin like walking into battle with his lightsaber drawn, and then like as lightning flashes or bombs go off, you see him like flash into Darth Vader, and Ahsoka just like looking at him like, like, I can't let that go. I can't forget that. Like, not only did he turn into Darth Vader, but he almost killed me as Darth Vader. So you see a lot going on in this young actor's eyes who's playing Ahsoka. And I think, again, she did a fine job. And then eventually Anakin turns into Vader, but like more just like Vader as he should have been. Like, he's got the Sith eyes, but he still looks like Anakin. He's not burned up yet. And then he's like, okay, Ahsoka, we're going to fight. So they continue fighting again. And as they're fighting, Ahsoka's, Anakin's kind of berating her. And Ahsoka's kind of, throughout this whole little journey talking about, like, I don't want to have this legacy of destruction. I don't want to be who you are. You say, like, parts of you are in me because, like, that's not good. Like, bruh, you're Darth Vader. And that's the last time she saw him was as Darth Vader, almost killing her. So she's got a lot pent up, and they're fighting. And she eventually gets the upper hand, and she pulls the lightsaber. She gets the lightsaber out of Vader's hand, or Anakin's hand, and pushes it up to his neck. And, like, there's a tense moment of her, like, leaning into it like, I could, and I kind of, like, part of me wants to. And the lesson I ultimately surmise from this is you can be a warrior to save your friends and to survive, but you have to let go of hate, and that's the hard part. Ahsoka could have given in to hate and killed Anakin. Not that she really could have killed Anakin in that moment, but like, yeah, I mean, she gets her eyes look like Sith eyes as the red lightsaber gets close to her face, and she eventually turns it off and throws it over the edge. They're back in the world between worlds, and she says, "I choose to live." And Anakin kind of comes out of like his Darth Vader mode. I don't. Again, it's kind of vague if this is actually Anakin's Force ghost or just a vision of him, but it looks like Anakin like actually had to like use energy to like suppress actually being Darth Vader and just appear as Darth Vader, because he kind of like comes out of it and he looks at her and his eyes are all normal again. He smiles at her and he's like, well, I think there's hope for you yet then, because the point of his lesson, again, what I surmised from it was, Ahsoka, you got to do things sometimes. You got to fight sometimes. Almost in a way like he seemed sorry for training her as a warrior, but it had to be done in the time that they were in. But you have to let go of the hate, and she didn't give in to hate. Kind of similar to Luke in that same moment. That's the second of, people Anakin has been responsible for. Not really that he was responsible for Luke, but technically he's his father. And Ahsoka he was responsible for. That's the second time now they've had, each of those people have had opportunities to kill Darth Vader and chose not to. So it's kind of a parallel between Luke and the Return of the Jedi not killing Vader, and now Ahsoka getting the chance to give in to hate, something that she's pent up for years, not giving into it, choosing to live. And I think that was the lesson, as kind of complicated as that is. That's my take on the lesson. And then, the episode's not done there. Like, there's so much in this episode. It's fantastic. And again, I'm not really going to go into my complaints on this. Maybe I will in another video. But honestly, I kind of just want to ride feeling this good about Star Wars. The music was fantastic. There's really good moments between Hera and Jacen. And Jacen actually has a big part in helping kind of, I don't know if he was using telemetry and hearing the previous lightsaber battle, or really just reaching out with the Force that much and hearing Ahsoka in the world between worlds / possibly in her head, lightsaber fighting Vader. I think that's what the episode wants you to believe a little bit more, so let's go with that. But Jacen is a pretty powerful Force user. His father, and they name drop his father, Kanan Jarrus. And oh God, I hope I said that right. It's been a while since I've seen Rebels, but yeah, they name drop his father, and that was kind of a funny moment too, because Carson Teva's like, Hu Yang's kind of telling him like, Jacen did a Force thing. His father was a powerful Force user, and Carson Teva, who's like kind of been pushing back against continuing this mission and just getting back to base because they're in trouble, is kind of just like, okay, whatever, let's do it. So that was kind of a funny moment, but yeah, Jacen's a pretty big part in this and helping find Ahsoka. It's a little bit up in the air if Ahsoka's physical body was in the world between worlds, and that's why they couldn't pick her up on the scanners, or if she just was dead and her little journey in the world between worlds like literally brought her back to life, which isn't the most far-fetched thing the Force has ever done. We've seen it in The Rise of Skywalker. I didn't really love that, but we've also seen plenty of weird things in the Force, including immaculate conceptions and all sorts of weird things. So I can buy this, whether Ahsoka was really dead and came back to life, or they just couldn't find her and then they got lucky and did. But they find Ahsoka. And this is where the episode really takes a turn for me in a good way, because not only was I loving what I saw with the like quote unquote member berries and all the like cool, like, oh, look at young Ahsoka, fighting in this battle and doing the Siege of Mandalore and all this kind of stuff. And they show some really cool like Mandalorians with the maul horns and stuff, really neat stuff. But besides that, the episode still had substance. Not only did those member berries have substance and importance, but the episode continues. And finally, we're seeing Ahsoka recover and become Ahsoka again. She's got a little glint in her eye. Her eyebrows are raised. She's not just always folding her arms. She's moving around. She's talking. She's hopeful. She says some really good lines in this portion of this second half of the episode. And basically what they do is Ahsoka recovers. She thanks Jacen for helping him find her, which was a really sweet moment. Hera asks, hey, where's Sabine? What happened? Ahsoka uses Force telemetry, like Quinlan Vos. Is it Quinlan Vos does the Force telemetry thing? He's in the Clone Wars, a really cool, badass Force user. And he can hear things based on objects that like people have imprinted on or like left memories on, I guess. And Ahsoka basically does the same thing. She's like, Sabine, this was probably a powerful moment for her or an important moment for her. She might have left an impression on this. Ahsoka uses Force telemetry and basically hears everything up to her giving Baylan the map and then going off on the ship with them. So she figures out a way shortly after to possibly find them. And it's more just like a shot in the dark. The nice thing that I liked about this was Ahsoka has been so calculated and just like, I won't do anything unless this works, for sure. Like unless there's a 100% chance this is going to work. That's why she would barely even train Sabine. She did take a little bit of a shot on Sabine, but it took a lot of Sabine like showing Ahsoka that she's ready for Ahsoka to even take that chance. So this was nice that there's probably a 5% chance in her mind that this could have worked and she still takes it. What the chance is Purrgil. She sees the Purrgil up in the sky and she's like, you know what? Let's do this. We're going to talk to the Purrgil like Ezra did, and we're going to hop in its mouth and it's going to shoot us to the galaxy that they're in. And the whole time, Jacen's like, is that going to work? And Hera's like, hope so. Like, I have hope, but I hope so. And Hu Yang's like, is this going to work? And Ahsoka's like, literally no idea. I have no idea. And she says a really good line. Hu Yang something like, how do you know this will take us to where they are? And Ahsoka's like, I don't know where it's going to take us. And then what does Hu Yang say? he says it could take us anywhere. Like it could totally take us anywhere that's not where they are. And Ahsoka's basically like, yeah, that's better than just staying here. And like, I can't remember the exact line, but like, I just remember Ahsoka feels so much like Ahsoka now. She's got hope. She's still burdened with her past, but she's like ready to help people and find her friends and not be so reserved and shut off. And she gets out there on the side of her ship that she likes standing on, which I think is pretty cool. And she talks to the Purrgil, and they get in its mouth and they shoot off to the other galaxy. All while there's a subplot about I guess it's not really a subplot, but the New Republic is coming to basically take them away and have them return to Coruscant with them to meet with Mon Mothma and some other delegates and senators and all that kind of stuff. And they're basically saying, hey, you and Ahsoka need to come with us because, to Hera, they're saying, hey, Hera, you and Ahsoka need to come with us. Bring Ahsoka because she's got to testify for you because we're considering stripping your rank as general completely. Because Hera obviously just took her ships and went. She against orders. And because the New Republic is stupid and incompetent. And they don't know a good thing when they got it. Hera. So yeah, Hera and Carson Teva instruct them to get out of the way of the Purrgil. They kind of tell them the plan. The New Republic's kind of like, okay, we don't know how to respond to this, but yeah, there's the Purrgil. We better move. And then it shoots him off and the episode ends. And yeah, that's kind of like a full rundown of the whole episode with a little bit of my editorial and thoughts on there. But I really liked it. I thought in the 45 minutes or 43 to 45 minutes of television that we got, that was the most effective use of it. I think this has been the most effective this show definitely has ever been. I was feeling things, like especially when Ahsoka's talking to the Purrgil and she's like back to being Ahsoka. I was like, finally. Like, I wish it didn't take 4.5 episodes to get there, but finally we have Ahsoka back, and there's still 3 episodes and they could be awesome, and I'm very hopeful. And I loved seeing Anakin, Hayden Christensen as Anakin again. That was so cool. It felt perfect. They showed back with the old haircut, the old Clone Wars haircut, like early on in the seasons when he's kind of got like a little mullet thing going on, kind of like me right now. And he's in his armor. He's in his like Jedi armor. Man, like it was so cool. And not only was he acting like his version of Anakin, but he almost kind of sounded like Matt Lantern's version of Anakin. In a way, like just the way he spoke. Like Dave Filoni definitely directed Hayden to be like this version of Anakin. Like that's still the same character. And I just thought it was so well done. Yeah, I don't really have too many complaints. The one thing I wanted to see with Anakin, which they were reserved on, but I do hope we get to see it again. If that actually was Anakin's Force Ghost, now that Ahsoka is kind of Ahsoka the White, if you will, I hope that they get to talk again at the very end of the season, and that Ahsoka and him can actually have a conversation about what happened between them. A conversation about Anakin becoming what he became, Ahsoka not only like kind of berating him for it, but also venting like, I'm so sorry I left you. I possibly could have helped, who knows? Because she does mention how powerful and dangerous he was to become, and that's when Anakin kind of flips into Vader in the World Between Worlds. And just actually having that conversation, talking about Luke. Ahsoka's met Luke and can tell him about it. Like, I just hope that they dedicate, please, dedicate 5 freaking minutes at the end of this season to just have Ahsoka talking to Anakin, clearing the air, becoming friends again. Like, that's what I want to see, talking about Luke. And I really just hope they get to actually have that conversation, because this, kind of more reserved use of Anakin was basically just focused on him teaching her a lesson, just in and out. Just like, hey, Ahsoka, it's me again. Surprised you died, but hey, let me teach you a lesson, you might live. And he just, it seemed like he had to do it quick. And so I really hope they get a good couple minutes at the end of the season to just have a conversation between the two, because even though I was so excited to see Anakin and Snips on screen together, live action again, or live action for the first time, but just again in general, I still am, my heart just a little bit more. I just want a little bit more. Like what I want in Star Wars the most is Ahsoka and Anakin having just a sit-down conversation. Just A shot, B shot, back and forth, couple minutes, them talking. Anyways, speaking of talking, I've talked long enough. Probably not going to edit this too much. I don't think I really made too many mistakes, and I had a lot to say about this episode. And let me know what you guys think. Did you like the episode? What do you think the World Between Worlds was? Was it actually the World Between Worlds, or was it more just in Ahsoka's head? Was that actually Anakin's Force Ghost, or was it just in Ahsoka's head? Did she really die? Who knows? She's Ahsoka the White now. Like, you know, Dave Filoni kind of retconned it, but she's Ahsoka the White now. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Disney, Mickey Mouse, you freak. Hera, we've seen that girl's booty cheeks in this episode more than we saw her face. Keep up the good work. All right, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Like, subscribe, comment.